Atomic Habits is the best book that I've read this year, 10 out of 10. It offers practical advice on how to start making progress towards your goals and objectives. First, it teaches a framework to help us understand what habits are, and then the book illustrates this by presenting excellent examples that explain the reasoning behind our habits. The book then teaches us how to categorize our habits based on whether they guide us towards the people we want to become or not. After the reflection and review of our own habits, we can then optimize our day-to-day by creating a system that helps us achieve our objectives. My favorite quote from the book is, "You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems," which is an adaptation of the quote, "We don't rise to the level of our expectations, we fall to the level of our training." Timestamps for all of the chapters covered are in the description or on the side if you're on a desktop and you click to show the timestamps. Atomic Habits. Changes that seem small and unimportant at first will compound into remarkable results if you're willing to stick with them for years. It is only when looking back 2, 5, or perhaps 10 years later that the value of good habits and the cost of bad ones becomes strikingly apparent. You should be far more concerned with your current trajectory than with your current results. Your outcomes are a lagging measure of your habits, as illustrated by the value of disappointment presented here on the screen right now. What you think should happen and what actually happens are different things. It's important to distinguish goals and systems. Goals are about the results you want to achieve. Systems are about the processes that lead to those results. It is the cycle of endless refinement and continuous improvement that will determine your progress. There are 3 levels at which change can occur: outcomes, processes, and identity. Your objective isn't merely to change the outcomes or the process behind it, but to build identity-based habits. With this approach, we start by focusing on who we wish to become. An example used to illustrate this is, imagine 2 people resisting a cigarette. When offered the cigarette, the first person says, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit." The second person declines by saying, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker." Who do you think gets better results? The ultimate form of intrinsic motivation is when a habit becomes part of your identity. Becoming the best version of yourself requires you to continuously edit your beliefs and to upgrade and expand your identity. Your habits shape your identity, and your identity shapes your habits. It's a two-way street. First step is not what or how, but who. You need to know who you want to be. The primary reason that the brain remembers the past is to better predict what will work in the future. The process of building a habit can be divided into 4 simple steps: cue, craving, response, and reward. Rewards are the end goal of every habit. The cue is about noticing the reward. The craving is about wanting the reward, and the response is about obtaining the reward. We chase rewards because they serve 2 purposes. 1, they satisfy us, and 2, they teach us. Without the first 3 steps, a behaviour will not occur. Without all 4, a behaviour will not be repeated. We can split these 4 steps into 2 phases, the problem phase and the solution phase. The problem phase includes the cue and the craving, and is when you realise that something needs to change. The solution phase includes the response and the reward, and it is when you take action and achieve the goals you desire. How to create a good habit: 1, make it obvious; 2, make it attractive; 3, make it easy; and 4, make it satisfying. You can also invert these laws to break a bad habit. 1, make it invisible; 2, make it unattractive; 3, make it difficult; and 4, make it unsatisfying. As habits form, your actions come under the direction of your automatic and non-conscious mind. You fall into old patterns before you even realize what's happening. As the psychologist Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. There are no good habits or bad habits, there are only effective habits, that is, effective at solving problems. You should categorize your habits on how they will benefit you in the long run. Many people think that they lack motivation when what they really lack is clarity. It's not always obvious where or when to take action. Some people spend their entire lives waiting for the right time to make an improvement. When your dreams are vague, it's easy to rationalize little exceptions all day long and never get around to the specific things you need to do to succeed. Given that we are more dependent on vision than on any other sense, it should come as no surprise that visual cues are the greatest catalyst of our behaviour. To form your habits, you should take a break from the space where you do your daily work, which is also linked to your current thought patterns. It is easier to associate a new habit in a new context than to build a new habit in the face of competing cues. Once you notice something, you begin to want it. Once the mental grooves of habit have been carved into your brain, they are nearly impossible to remove entirely, even if they go unused for quite a while. Make the cues of your good habits obvious and the cues of your bad habits invisible. We have the brains of our ancestors, but temptations that they never had to face. Your brain has far more neural circuitry allocated for wanting rewards than for liking them. It is the craving that leads to the response. We imitate the habit of three groups in particular: the close, the many, and the powerful. Each group offers an opportunity to make our habits more attractive. You can join a culture where your desired behaviour is the normal behaviour and you already have something in common with the group. We'd rather be wrong with the crowd than be right by ourselves, and we imitate the people that we envy. Your current habits are not necessarily the best way to deal with the problems that you face. They are just the methods that you learn to use. Once you associate a solution with the problem you need to solve, you keep coming back to the same solution. All day long, you are making your best guess at how to act given what you have seen and has worked in the past. You are endlessly predicting what will happen in the next moment. It is emotion that allows you to mark things as good, bad, or indifferent. Checking social media will help you feel loved, and watching YouTube will help you forget your fears. Sometimes you see good habits as burdens, but there's an easy way to transform them into opportunities. Instead of saying, I have to do something, say, I get to do something. I don't have to go to the gym, I get to go to the gym. This is one of the most important changes you can make. Start saying, I get to, instead of, I have to. We are so focused on figuring out the best approach that we never get around to taking action. As Voltaire once wrote, the best is the enemy of the good. You don't want to merely be planning, you want to be practicing. If you want to master a habit, the key is to start with repetition, not perfection. You don't need to map out every feature of a new habit, you just need to practice it. The more you repeat an activity, the more the structure of your brain changes to become efficient at that activity. Like the muscles of the body responding to regular weight training, habits form based on frequency, not time. Every action requires a certain amount of energy. The more energy required, the less likely it is to occur. We will naturally gravitate towards the option that requires the least amount of energy. The central idea is to create an environment where doing the right thing is as easy as possible. Focus on just the first 2 minutes and master that stage before moving on to the next level. Eventually you'll end up with a habit you originally hoped to build while still keeping your focus where it should be on the first 2 minutes of the behaviour. Choices are like a fork in the road. One sends you in the direction of a productive day and the other sends you in the direction of an unproductive day. Sometimes success is less about making good habits easy and more about making bad habits hard. The inversion of the third law of change is make it difficult. As a general rule, the more immediate pleasure you get from an action, the more strongly you should question whether it aligns with your long-term goals. What is immediately rewarded is repeated. What is immediately punished is avoided. To get a habit to stick, you need to feel immediately successful, even if it's in a small way. Habit tracking, for example, marking an X on your calendar, has three main benefits. It is a visual cue that reminds you to act. It's inherently motivating because you see the progress you're making and you don't want to lose it. It feels satisfying whenever you record another successful instance of your habit. Furthermore, habit tracking provides visual proof that you are casting votes for the type of person you wish to become, which is a delightful form of immediate and intrinsic gratification. You may fall off track and not mark an X, but the first mistake is never the one that ruins you. It is the spiral of repeated mistakes that follow. Missing once is an accident, missing twice is the start of a new habit. Adding an instant cost to your actions of bad habits is a great way to reduce their odds. To be productive, the cost of procrastination must be greater than the cost of action. We are less likely to repeat a bad habit if it is painful or unsatisfying. Selecting the right place to focus is crucial. Genes do not determine your destiny, but they do determine your areas of opportunity. Ask yourself these questions. What feels like fun to me, but work to others? What makes me lose track of time? Where do I get greater returns than the average person? What comes naturally to me? Once we realize our strengths, we know where to spend our time and energy. The Goldilocks rule states that humans experience peak motivation when they are working on tasks that are right on the edge of their current abilities. Not too hard, not too easy, just right. The greatest threat to success is not failure, but boredom. Professionals stick to the schedule. Amateurs let life get in the way. Once a skill has been mastered, there is usually a slight decline in performance over time. Although habits are powerful, what you need is a way to remain conscious of your performance over time, so you can continue to refine and improve. The solution is to establish a system for reflection and review. This helps you consider paths for improvement. A lack of self-awareness is poison. Reflection and review is the antidote. Habits plus deliberate practice equals mastery. You want to push your good habits by making them obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. Meanwhile, you want to cluster your bad habits by making them invisible, unattractive, hard, and unsatisfying. He who has a why can bear almost any how. Resisting temptation does not satisfy your craving. It just ignores it. It creates space for the craving to pass. Self-control requires you to release a desire rather than satisfy it. Seneca has a famous quote, "Being poor is not having too little, it is wanting more." How we feel influences how we act, and how we act influences how we feel. Thank you for watching.